everyone. I'd like to call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for tonight. Want to let you know the board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have authority to grant relief where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following the public hearing. Use variance requests a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variance. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. If you would like to request the board postpone your case due to the absence of a full board, you must inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. As you can see, we only have 6 people tonight, so that means the votes are very close on some of these. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentation to 10 minutes, and each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. And seeing there's a lot of people here wanting to comment tonight, please limit your comments to comments that haven't been said already, so that we don't have repetitiveness. But thank you. All right. First, let's see. As we took attendance already, I'm assuming there's approval of minutes for May 11th, 2023. Is there any changes to the minutes? Revisions? All right.
I guess they're automatically approved now, aren't they?
If there's no changes, they are automatically approved, yes. All right. Is there any unfinished business? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Case number 23-07-13 for 4915 Leafdale. Whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject site is located on the west side of Leafdale Boulevard within the General Industrial Zoning District, and the property is currently developed with a single-story industrial building along with the associated parking lot located on the south side of the property. At their June 13th, 2023 meeting, the Royal Oak Planning Commission did grant site plan and special land use approval to the petitioner to allow them to convert the site into a fitness center with the contingency that the 2 listed variances be granted. So first, looking at their parking, fitness and recreational facilities are required to provide 1 parking space for every 4 people allowed under the building's maximum occupancy. And the building division did state that fitness centers are allowed a maximum occupancy of 1 person for every 50 square feet of usable floor area. And their approved floor plan shows 3,290 square feet of usable floor area, which works out to a maximum occupancy of 66 people. So this portion of the building would require 17 off-street parking spaces. There's also a small office area at the front of the building, and office uses are required to provide 1 space for each 225 square feet of usable floor area. So that component of the building would require 2 additional parking spaces. So in total, the site requires 19 off-street parking spaces. Their site plan provides 12, so the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 7 of the minimum required 19 required off-street parking spaces. In addition to that, based upon the orientation of the parking spaces, they would require a minimum maneuvering lane of at least 20 feet to accommodate 2-way traffic. And their parking lot only maintains a width of 13 feet. So the petitioner is seeking a second variance to waive 7 feet of the minimum required 20 feet for a 2-way drive/maneuvering aisle. Thank you.
All right, is there any questions for staff?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
So I know this doesn't factor into the calculation, but it looked like there was a lot of on-street parking on both sides. Are there any restrictions for that on-street parking?
So we don't take on-street parking into total calculation for the parking that's required for the site itself. Now, patrons could use that, but we wouldn't include that in their parking calculation.
Okay. Yeah, but it appeared to be open, like not restricted, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, sure. You can see it right there in the street view as well.
Yes.
There's lawn in front of this building, and some of the buildings there are not part of the road. It's cement, kind of, I want to say like the median or whatever you want to call it, and people are parked there. Is that something that they're not supposed to be doing, or could that be used for parking?
So if you look at their site plan, you can see that their property line ends about a foot in from the sidewalk, so that portion of grass which is between the road itself and the sidewalks actually within the right-of-way. So that's not on that subject property. Now this portion right here where it is currently lawned on their property, it really wouldn't work out for them to utilize that for parking for a couple reasons. Number one, we wouldn't allow them to back out directly onto Leafdale, because that itself wouldn't be meeting the minimum maneuvering lane distance to begin with. And even if they did manage hypothetically to squeeze in a couple spaces, I have a hard time believing that that would still satisfy the minimum parking requirement.
Can I ask that
No,
the
this
board speak up? We can't hear you back here with the music in the background. I didn't hear any of her comments.
Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, the petitioner is present. Please come forward and state your case.
Andrew Mostly, Board Associates Architects, 4351 Delamere Court, just the other side of 14 Mile from the site. Good evening. The owners, Ashley and Justin Trevido, or I'm sorry, Trevido, are here to answer any questions that you may have. Their plan is to open a weight training facility to move it here from Clawson. They work with small groups, not the large. It's not a, very few fitness facilities have occupancy of 1 to 50 square feet. That's like yoga, and that's more for life safety rather than for parking and actual operation. But they tend to work in, as Justin probably explained, small groups for weight training, barbell lifting, Olympic style weightlifting. And they control that and will maintain groups small enough that the parking provided will suffice. As far as the dimensions of the property or the parking lot, it's all we have to work with. Like many buildings in my area south of 14 Mile and north of 14 Mile, the parking just isn't there for most uses. And variances are required, and like Mr. Reddy said, there's parking on the street, and oftentimes it'll be non-business hours that people are being trained. So most likely the on-street parking will be available. And then we're here to answer any questions. You want to give a quick overview of your...
Hi, my name's Ashley Thibodeau. My husband Justin and I own Motor City Barbell. Currently, so we're moving from Clawson. With the type of fitness services that we provide, it's small group classes. So there's about 8 people max at a time, and the way we operate is we don't have specific class time, so we offer training halls. So for example, between 3 and 8, our members can sign up, come to class anytime within that time. So there really is very few cars there in the lot, and we assume that most people will end up utilizing the street parking, with there being so much street parking and most of our business being in the early morning hours and the evening hours when the surrounding businesses aren't operating.
Sure.
Are the two of you the only staff members there?
Yes.
And do you park on site?
My husband is there full-time. I have a full-time job elsewhere, but during the day it would just be his vehicle.
Okay, and you said that it's open classes from...
So the schedule is 6 to 8 a.m. We have training halls, so you can, if you're a member of the gym, you can come and work out during that time with a coach on site. The rest of the day is open gym, so if you have a key code, you can access the gym during that time. And then my husband does personal training during that time. And then we offer coaching hours from 3 to 8 p.m. So that's another time where people are just kind of rotating through. So maximum there might be 6 to 8 people at a time. And then we do offer the same type of thing Saturday morning from 10
Okay,
to 1. Did that answer
follow
your
up.
question? Yeah.
You say it's maximum 6 to 8, but do you have a limit on it since
Yes.
people don't have to sign up in
They do sign up,
advance?
yeah.
Oh, they do sign up?
Yes, we just
Okay.
don't offer like, you know, 6 to 7, so it's not packed. Everyone, especially with people working from home now, we kind of changed our hours to accommodate that.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Moore?
You said 6 to 8 people at a time, so when their time limit is up, do they tend to leave immediately, or is there
Yeah.
lingering with the next group of 6 to 8 coming in?
Not really, and because I mean they're not coming in groups, there's really not that like group of traffic coming and then the next group waiting to get in. The way my husband writes all the programming, it's customized, so it's, you know, written for maybe about an hour and 15. So people aren't really there, you know, for hours on end or hanging out or anything like that.
Okay, thanks.
I have a quick one. Sure. You said 6 to 8, is it one-on-one coaching or is it like 2-on-1?
So during the day, if there's personal training, it would be one-on-one, and then when it's group coaching, it's one coach, being myself or my husband, with the group there. So everyone kind of works on their program on their own, at their own kind of pace, and we're there to assist.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, just to let you know, as you can see, we only have 7 members of the board. You need 5 affirmative votes to grant the variances. So after public hearing, I'll ask if you want us to proceed or postpone until the next meeting.
Okay.
So just think about it until then.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak publicly for this case? You may come up and...
It's supposed to be 20 feet wide, 13 feet seems awful small.
What? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You need my name? No? I'll just say the variance they're taking is supposed to be 20 feet wide for a 2-lane road or two cars. 13 feet seems awful small to get 2 cars, especially trucks. I don't even know how you do that. Or back up. It doesn't look like there's room that you can back up a truck here. No, looking at it, so it just seemed like quite a variance, that's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is near and dear to me.
You can wait till...
I'm Kathy Grant. I live on Elmhurst, 3 streets over. I didn't know this was going to be here tonight. There's all apartments there, the 2 other streets, and then mine is a residential street. There's not much parking left with all those people for the apartments are parking on Mansfield and the other street that's near me. So if you guys are looking for variances on parking, it's going to be a problem in my neighborhood, I'm just saying. I just want that on record. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else here to speak for this case? Going once, going twice. All right, 3 times. All right, would you like us to proceed or postpone till next meeting?
Yeah, we'd like to proceed.
Okay, then we'll bring it to the side of the board. Is there any comments, discussion, motions?
May we rebut?
Usually we don't have rebuttals. If there's questions, we can have you respond to those questions. If someone up here would like you to respond to something that brought up a question, they can ask you as part of our discussion. Mr. Moore.
I'd like to hear what they have to say, if everybody else is okay with that.
That's fine.
Well, the 2 issues are parking, and yes, there's available parking on the street, but that's not really the crux of our argument. Our crux of our argument is that we don't have that many people at this location, so we don't need the 19 spaces for the parking. The city code is the flexibility is you people here doesn't address every single different kind of exercise facility. And we are presenting a facility that doesn't need that much parking. As far as the width of the aisle goes, it's all we have. And 20 feet is for a parking lot like this, where you've got cars coming and going. We don't have cars coming and going here. We've got, 6, 8 cars in this lot. Everyone knows each other. It's not the same issue as if you have to back up and come back and forth a little bit. It's unfortunate, but doable.
just like to add that we actually have a lot of members that live in the surrounding neighborhood, so we are already anticipating lots of walkability, bikeability. A lot of people are really excited about that from where we've moved from Clausen, so I think that'll hopefully help mitigate some of the parking issues as well.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion points, motions? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, just some general comments on this. I think this is like some of the other parking variances that we've seen before, and they know their business and how many people are going to be there, and if it wasn't going to work for them, they probably wouldn't do it, because if people come there, there's nowhere to park, they're not going to come back. So that's where I'm kind of leaning. I mean, I'm trusting that they know how many people they serve at one time and what their parking needs are.
So, Ms. Sukin.
I'd say that I'm usually sensitive to neighbors being concerned about parking in residential areas, but this street is not residential at all, and if they have to park that far away, then they're hosting a lot more than 8 people, so I don't see that happening, and hopefully it won't.
Is there a motion at all? Mr. Liddy.
I move that we grant the variances as requested.
Is there a second? Mr. Moore to second. Go ahead, Mr. Reddy.
Well, first of all, I think there's a practical difficulty. The building is there and the lot is the width that it is. I don't see how you could make it bigger. And based on what they've described, I think it'll be adequate. And I think this is a case where the the rule is unreasonably restrictive. So I think, let's see, for Part B, I think it would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners in the district and the plight of the landowners due to the unique circumstances of the property, and the alleged hardship has not been created by anyone having a present interest. So I feel like we should grant it.
Mr. Moore?
Nothing further. I think you covered it all.
Okay. Anyone else on discussion points? I too am in favor of this. I think it's pretty much as you stated. It's a unique circumstance in this being an industrial area with a unique business here that doesn't need the amount of square footage that normally is associated with fitness centers, because they're going to have a lot of equipment take it up, and so they have very limited number of people who are going to be there. So I have full faith that, like we always say, if they have too many people coming and they don't like the parking arrangement, they're not going to have too many people coming in a long time. Because of that, I don't have a problem. So if there's no other comments, we will move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that was the motion to grant all the variances. All right, next case, number 23-07-14 for 3041 Sylvan Drive. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This site has a one-story structure that was built as a single-family dwelling in 1954. It also has a detached garage, and it's located in the city's one-family residential zoning district. It does have a rental license to operate as a single-family home. However, in March, code enforcement became aware of potential violations that the structure has been functioning as 2 separate units, the ground floor and the basement. And the property owner received violation letter and citations for failure to go through the approval process to have that in that circumstance. And recently, the district court magistrate found the property owner responsible for the violation. So the petitioner is now seeking a use variance in order to convert the existing single-family home to a 2-family structure. Being that the property is in the one-family residential zoning district, it only allows for a single-family home. So they need a use variance in order to use the property as a two-family structure. And a use variance requires 6 affirmative votes. As it pointed out by the chair, we have 7 board members present tonight. So chair will once again address that inquiry after the public hearing, but it does require, the use variance requires 6 affirmative votes. If the board does grant the use variance, there are additional variances that are needed. Staff applies the standards set forth in the two-family residential zoning district if that use variance is granted. And the petitioner has provided a sketch of the property and interior floor plans. Based on the sketch, they're not proposing to expand the structure or do any exterior modifications, but the sketches are not drawn to scale and they lack relevant details such as showing ingress-egress window for the basement for compliance to have a bedroom in the basement. They don't show staircases, utilities, doors, or the detached garage or the length of the driveway and assigned parking spaces. So these details would illustrate the independent nature of each of the dwelling units, so they're relevant. But greater details, if they do obtain the variances and they move forward, they'll need to provide greater details on any drawings associated with obtaining permits to convert the structure to a two-family, such as mechanical, electrical, plumbing, floor plans. They would need to submit those to the building division. And if those detailed drawings necessitated additional variance requests, they would be back in front of you again. But at this point in time, based on what they've provided, they also need a variance to the minimum lot size. A two-family structure needs to be on a property of no less than 9,000 square feet, and this site is smaller than that. So they're seeking a variance to waive a little over 1,900 square feet of that minimum required lot area of 9,000 square feet. And the site has a single vehicle driveway that leads to the detached garage as shown in the photograph on the screen. Based on the petitioner's sketch and the aerial photographs and site photographs, the driveway appears to be sufficient to accommodate several vehicles in length, but since we don't know the exact measurement, we don't have a survey to know the exact measurement. We don't know exactly how many parking spots will be able to be accommodated. We do require under the ordinance 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. So if they modified the structure to be a two-family structure, they would need to provide a total of 4 off-street parking spaces. And we allow under the ordinance logical application that if 2 individuals are living in a unit, equating to 2 parking spaces per unit, that someone would have access to the keys of the other vehicle that they lived in the unit with. So we do allow that stadium style of parking to apply to the individual unit, but there's no way to provide independent sets of parking spaces on this particular property. So they are seeking a waiver of 2 of the minimum required 4 parking spaces because it's only possible to accommodate 2 stadium stacked or stadium style parking spaces on the property. We did receive numerous public comments and a petition that are included in your report, and we can answer any questions that you may have, and if not, I'm sure the petitioner's legal counsel can assist in that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Reddy.
There seem to be several similar houses on the street that are used for single family. Is that correct? Are the neighboring houses?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any 2 units or anything other than a single family home in that immediate neighborhood. I'm certain that the neighbors that are here tonight will be able to affirm that or to tell you otherwise.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, the petitioner may come forward, state your name, and present your case.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Megan Dakwala. I'm appearing on behalf of Nathan Zahar, the property owner. I have a full legal argument prepared based on the facts in this case. However, I think that given the contentious nature in terms of the procedural history, how we got here, I would prefer to have a decision rendered with a full board.
Okay. That's understandable, but because it's a public hearing, we probably still want to present.
Sure. I'm used to adjourning, in a civil trial.
No problem.
Okay. So for a use variance, the largest legal hurdle I see is the reasonable use for a purpose that is not permitted in the zone. Obviously, as you've mentioned, in that same exact zone, there's several single-family homes. And it's not about the character of the neighborhood. We all know Royal Oak is a very thriving place for young professionals. And multifamily units, converting single-family to multifamily, is certainly helpful in accommodating that. However, it does have to be particular to the property. The petitioner in this case does face a hardship arising out of the consistent use of the property as a duplex because prior to his ownership, while lack of knowledge of the law is not an excuse, there is a long history of this being used as a duplex. In fact, the two levels are separated off from one another, so you cannot access the upstairs from the downstairs and vice versa. There's a shared stairwell. It has an external locking door. So there's a locked first floor and a locked basement and then a shared stairwell. So it's a common area space that you would normally have in a multifamily dwelling. The entire house is certainly equipped to accommodate use as a duplex. Both the ground floor and the basement are fully equipped with living spaces, bathroom facilities, and kitchens. In the City of Detroit versus the City of Detroit Board of Zoning Appeals, which is the Michigan Court of Appeals case, the court determined that the zoning board did err in denying a petitioner's request on the basis of self-imposed hardship, because that could certainly be construed as a major factor here. If there's a self-imposed hardship, if the law was never checked in terms of the zoning and then it just continued to be rented out as a duplex. However, the court did find that on the basis of self-imposed hardship, where the hardship existed prior to the current owner's use, there was an error by the zoning board in denying the petitioner's request. So I'm not sure if the consideration by the board is necessarily how long, and also I'm not sure if I'm able to present more to you at the next hearing. Okay. Can I submit anything in writing before that? Okay, excellent. I had asked actually Mr. Borowski about a month ago if I could submit more for this, but maybe the time had just run out, but I did not hear back about that. Also, I'm a lawyer, not a contractor or an architect, so I did my best on these sketches here, but my client is in contact with many contractors regarding this. It's just a battle of how much am I going to pay for this in terms of if it's the likelihood of it being approved. So we're kind of playing it step by step a little bit. So the second point is the appeal, is how it's stated in the memo. Results from unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not in general neighborhood conditions. I think that A and B are a little bit baked into each other. So this is resulting from the hardship that existed at the property in terms of its design, use, and layout prior to the petitioner's purchase. So that is certainly unique to the property. There is high demand for this particular property to be rented as a duplex. My client had advertised it as such before he was aware that he was violating the law. There is, as an exhibit attached to the memo, an entry from RE/MAX. I did discuss this with my client, and I'm not sure when this was published, but he was not aware of that. However, in Exhibit F, yes, Exhibit F, there is an advertisement where it says about this property. He did publish that. So you can see in the description, he is advertising advertising it as a duplex. It's my understanding that this was published before he was issued violations and realized that he couldn't run it out as a duplex. Okay. The use requested by the variance would not alter the essential character of the area. Again, as I stated, and I think this speaks more to the vibrancy of Royal Oak and its young community and more the general community instead of just this block necessarily or this zone. However, still in the zone, there's certainly nearby areas with a multitude of multifamily residences, including condominium and apartment complexes. What petitioner is requesting in this case, it's far from converting to a larger scale residential complex. So an approval of this use would not alter the character of the area. The requested variance, moreover, would reflect the character of the area. The use of the property as a duplex does not significantly differ in this case from using it as a single family dwelling with a large family. There's more than enough bedrooms, there's 4. The people that were living in it before they had to vacate, that was under the amount of people that would be legally allowed to be in the house as a single family rental. I think that you did touch on it a little bit, but just to go back to the parking, this is part of the follow-up I want to do. I want to get a better survey, firstly, and secondly, give exact measurements of the driveway. But in terms of the parking, again, it's not my understanding that this would create a parking issue. And finally, the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest. As I stated, this property had long been used as a duplex before petitioner bought it, and he had no knowledge of the violations till he was ticketed. So it wasn't a specific cause by him until there was a violation, then of course he wouldn't be able to rent it out again in the same manner, which I advised him of course. Oh, I'm sorry, not finally. Finally, that the use will preserve a substantial property right possessed by other property owners in the same zone. This does not affect the property rights of other owners in the zone. As I mentioned, the parking isn't to an extent where there would be multiple other cars outside of the actual property. And also, it could be rented out as a single family property with just as many people as if it were a duplex. I'm not going to significantly repeat myself in terms of the non-use variances. Those are requirements, as I'm understood, in order for it to comply with duplex use if the use variance is approved. And a lot of it is very similar in terms of the legal argument. So if anything, I'll table that and I'll talk about it more next time. However, I will just say that the 2 proposed non-use variances are to waive approximately 2,000 square feet of the minimum required 9,000 square feet. Again, if this were rented out as a duplex, let me start over. Okay, if this requirement is not waived, the petitioner will continue to be out of compliance where the use variance is granted. Where 2 of the minimum 4 required off-street parking spaces requirement is not waived, he will continue to be out of compliance. Again, this is contingent on the use variance. The factors involved in granting non-use variances also involve that there is particularity to the property and there's not a hardship that's been created by the petitioner himself. Again, we rely on the history of the understanding of the use of the property in the past, and also on the fact that save updates such as ingress and egress, which were mentioned in the application itself in terms of his intent to update those sorts of things, and be in compliance with what is necessary to rent the property out as a duplex. There's no... The hardship, I'm sorry. I'd just like to address, again, the property owners, because this is another non-use prong. It serves substantial justice for the petitioner where he was misinformed as to the legality of use of the property as a duplex by the previous owner, and where only minimal modifications to the property are necessary to update it. Again, I'd like to submit more to this board for review and wait for a decision until the next hearing, or until there's a full board that can convene.
All right. Thank you. Questions for the petitioner?
When did your client purchase the property?
I have it. One moment.
I saw it. That was very similar to
He purchased it in 2022.
Okay.
So, like I said, there was a lot that was going on, more or less, at this property before he purchased it. Yeah, in fact, it was very quickly that the tenants in the upstairs and the tenants in the downstairs started arguing with each other. So then one of them reported that it was out of compliance, and he really was not aware of that.
Other questions for the petitioner? I have one, and maybe you don't know, and maybe he doesn't know, but when did this building first get used as a duplex in its history?
I definitely don't know.
Okay.
I can supplement you if I get that information from him.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. As we already know, you would like to postpone it after a public hearing, so we'll let the public speak, and then afterwards we'll, as a board, postpone this till next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
All
you.
right. Who would like to first? Don't all run up here. Whoever would like to come up first, please do so. Oh. You've won the feud, the family feud. All right, come on down. All right.
Hello, and thank you for taking. Actually, I'm the neighbor on the west number 3035. And I'm living here for 25 years. So I want to go directly. I mean, I have so many things to speak about this property, but I really want to focus specifically on the parking, and then we will go backwards.
Okay, you've only got 3 minutes.
So I have very few minutes, and I want to say that this structure, as long as Mr. Nathan Zeher got the house, my driveway was filled up with vehicles, 6 at the time. I have an elderly mother, very sick and so on. We cannot sleep at night with the traffic we have. I have police reports, specifically one police report indicates suspicious vehicles. There is suspicious activity in this neighborhood. There is absolutely no way in my 25 years there that this dwelling was upstairs and downstairs. It is a single house building. I have a lot of police reports because parties were with guns on January after I've seen guns hanging around this house for a party that is not a family house, that was not the purpose of this house to be rented. I've seen a lot of tracking of people going in and out for many different walks of life that we've been scared. I am scared. The whole board, please look at me. I cannot stand in my house. For 25 years, I've never seen anything like this. I am shaken right now because I do not know from where a bullet may come to my house and who is going to come to me. This is a very scary situation. Please think about that. I have at least 4 police reports, and one of them, it is drugs. It was a lot of other things. I don't want to go through that. And specifically, on January 2nd, Mr. Nathan hired probably another attaché. His name is Omar. And then a couple came to my house at night, and he said, we want to check your house because you are renting it. I said, I don't rent my house. And it was January 2nd, after the holiday, after the 1st of January. And I said, I don't rent the house. And I said, where did you find it? And the lady said, here are the pictures, and I see her iPhone. And I took a picture of her iPhone, and then I saw pictures which do not belong to my property. Then that guy, Omar, waved his hand, and then she went with a guy inside the house for rental. Then they went out, and I talked to her, do you see the pictures for that house that was advertised under my house? And she said yes, and that was the basement. Actually, in purpose, that house was a 2-story building. I've seen a lot of things. Yes, it was sold on 2022. Up to 22, there were other problems. I'm not going to go through that, but at least it was a single family. I don't have much to say. I have 4 police reports. I have the numbers. If you want to read them, I will be more than happy to answer any other questions. My time is over.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next. Someone's coming right here. By the way, real quick, how many people are against this? Raise your hand real quick, just so I get. Okay, so you're welcome to all come up, but let's not repeat everything. I perfectly can see that we can see that all of you are against it.
My name is Richard Romanko. I live about 7 houses away from this house, and I believe the guy who bought the house is looking for bucks. He doesn't want to provide people with a family with residents. He wants to provide as many people as he can to make money from this project of his. The house next to us has been rented out for 65 years and from a slumlord who lives in Plymouth. 2 doors down, the lady is 80-something years old, in a nursing home. It's been empty. The house across from her is in a nursing home. It's empty. The house across from us is a rental right now. So in this neighborhood, these kind of people are coming in and buying these things and thinking they're going to make some money because Royal Oak is thriving. And I just think it's just going to wreck our neighborhood. As these elderly people have been there their whole life, we've been there 40 years. If they start to pass away, these people are coming in and just buying it to make money, and they're just renting it out. Now this guy wants to come and rent to 2 people. 1 people's all right, families like that, or young people. But when somebody comes in and they want to split it like that, then he's going to be buying the house 2 houses from us, across the street from us, down the street from the house, across the street from the house. They're going to start doing it all. You know, these people are passing. There's still a few older people there in the nursing homes too, you know. And their houses are empty, rented just in the 5 houses around me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Rick Karlowski. A few things here. This should be rejected because there's no hardships here. Okay, none. The notion that he was lied to by the seller does not, in any way, shape, or form, constitute a hardship. That's a decision between him and the buyer. And if he wants to go sue the seller for misrepresentation, that's his problem. It's not a variance criteria for the Zoning Board of Appeals. The property will not be necessarily used for purposes permitted, cannot be used for purposes permitted. Of course it can. You can rent this out as a single-family home, no problem. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Use of request of variance will not alter the character of the neighborhood. Of course it will. It's going to turn a single-family neighborhood into a multifamily zoned, at least one at a time, neighborhood. You're changing the zoning. No, there's no 2 ways about it. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant. Really? I mean, this is not something where you have a lot people coming in and wanted to add a story to a house that was built in 1910 when the surveys were done with a thumb, okay, and now the setbacks aren't exactly right. This house was built as a single-family house in a single-family neighborhood. The fact that he didn't know that, he didn't do his due diligence, does not give him the right to change it to a multi-family dwelling. There's no hardships here, none. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Okay, Beverly Hills Woods subdivision has always been a single family, and I wish it to remain as such. Plaintiff's attorney there stated that 3041 Sullivan has long since been a 2-family dwelling. It has not. I know the owner prior to Mr. ZBA in it. It's a single family. So I don't know, I hope it's a typo, but no matter what, it's not true. Mr. Zahar or the management group, whoever does the vetting of the people that rent this house, has not been doing a good job. Besides the party that Stella was referencing, because she's so afraid. I'm a retired sergeant from the police department. She calls me and tells me what's going on. I tell her to call the police, and I come down to her house to settle her down and her mother. All right. The thing is, the other person, the last person that has rented that house, when he drives his car, stop signs and speed limits are only a mere recommendation for his operating the vehicle. I don't bother calling the police because they're busy. I'll just call him when he murders somebody on the street. The doors on the house here has yellow stickers. They've been deliberately tampered with and covered over, so anybody wishing to see this house will not see what the problem is with this house. All it is a scam going down the road. In the last sentence of this letter, it says, allowing such a variance will cause no public harm. Trash in the driveway for 2 months. 2 mattresses stuck between the fence and the garage for 2 months. It is a source of rat infestation. So how can that be good for the neighborhood? Okay. The only thing I can say is that if these variances are granted, the Royal Oak Police Department should set up a police mini station on Sylvan Drive because of the fact that the police response will be much quicker. And hopefully no innocent persons might be hurt by whoever is renting this house. And I'm sorry, but you know, the way I look at Mr. Zire, it's much easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm an 82-year resident of Royal Oak. I'm also a landlord. When I buy a piece of property, I do my due diligence. It's apparent this guy didn't do it. And I also object to out-of-town landlords that don't behave themselves. The report that you have in your documents from code enforcement is evidence of the fact that this guy doesn't care what. I jokingly said to my wife, I said, I wouldn't even put your mother down there. We need to maintain single-family zoning. Right now we're going through a master plan process, and they're suggesting or recommending that we get rid of our zoning code and go to a process called form-based zoning, which will it'll get rid of our single-family zoning. It'll devastate the city. So I hope that when this comes back that you deny it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've lived here for 10 years now, homeowner about 5 doors down. I was going to do some research last night to look at, sizes of houses on the street, because I thought I had one of the larger houses on the street. And I can tell you it's definitely at 1,480 square feet, it's too small to fit two families in there, let alone, multiple people in those families. I will also say that he's out of town and he's advertising daily rentals online. And also I found that he has hijacked the addresses of other houses on the street to advertise this rental. If you look at 3015 Sylvan on Zillow and whatnot, you'll see the pictures of 3041 advertising his rental and whatnot. Mr. Zaher is just a bad actor in this case. Recommend you do not allow any variance. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. I also reside on Sylvan Drive nearby. I disagree with 3041 Sylvan Drive. Should be a multifamily home. This will permanently change the character of our neighborhood. Sylvan is already packed with cars on the street as it is. This will open the door for future multifamily homes in our neighborhood, and it is not a big neighborhood. Landlords, realtors, or owners who are in charge of leasing a dwelling generally perform a background check. From what I've witnessed, I question if this is even being done. And there are numerous renters in our neighborhood that have never made me question this or feel this way before. If anyone in the audience is also against this variance, please raise your hand. Thank you again. First time speaking.
Good evening. I just have a few more things to add because everyone said pretty much what our whole neighborhood feels like. I just grabbed my husband's glasses instead of mine. I'm like, I can't see. So yeah, I agree. They should only be single-family homes. That's how they all been. Most of them are 1,050 square feet, 3 bedrooms upstairs, basement. Mr. Zahari, we have never had a home in our neighborhood where people are scared to walk by it, and it's not kept up at all. He has advertised to rent it by the month, which they can sublease it, so by the week. Are we gonna get to the day, to the hour? What's gonna happen next? So no one feels safe about it. I've submitted pictures, 1 through 6, showing how unkept the house is. 7 and 8, that was residents that were there, December 22. We were out doing luminaries in the neighborhood. There's always that group of people. There were numerous cars all the time, 6, 8, in and out. As you can see on the window, directions. Anyone looking at that would think, what kind of activity or trafficking is going on there? And you could see it. They didn't have anything on the windows. You could see people living in the basement, upstairs. All the directions, and then cars would come, people would jump in, and they'd disperse. That happened more than once. So I don't know how this man's even allowed to rent anything out. And I hope you would consider all that going on and not have it in a dual family home. The previous residents lived there 12 years. 2 parents, 3 little kids. They moved out because it was too small. So please consider all that. He's going to ruin our neighborhood. He's not a good landlord. No dual house or single, whichever. So please consider all that, and we'll be back when they come back. Thank you.
I live across the street from this house. Every day I'm on my front porch looking at this house. You see the yard there? It's the best it's looked all summer. It's been mowed once. The homeowner doesn't care about the house. I don't know when the last time he saw this house. We've had parties there. We've had 6, 8 cars on the street. We've had them in our front yard. We have our windows looking. I'm tired. I wish he'd take the picture of the side of the house. The gutter's all ripped up. Come on, you can sit with me on my porch and look at this thing. The yellow piece of paper, it was covered up, or no, it was trying to be scratched off. Then the city of Royal Oak put a new one above it. They put tape over it. I've seen cars in there at night. What they're doing, I don't know. But I've been asked to watch the house. You think if you own a house, you take care of it better. Just get a lawn service. Mow it every 3 weeks. It's been mowed once. This is July. There is no flowers. Nobody has cared about this house. Now we want to put more people into it. And I don't know if he screens the renters or not. I mean, we've had parties. We've had them out in the street. We're just a nice, quiet neighborhood. And we just kind of want to be left alone and have this house be taken care of. He doesn't have anybody that takes care of it. You're looking at it, please. Would you want to look at that? And that grass is the lowest I've seen all year. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard plenty about the condition of the house and the temperament of the owner. What we haven't talked about yet is the safety of the people in the neighborhood. With two families living in that house, and all the cars that are going to be, it's not only going to be the cars that the people that live there, but their friends, relatives, and so on, that's going to cause a lot more congestion in the street. Now, just kitty corner from that house, there are 2 or 3 homes with young children living in those homes, and they play in the street constantly. And I'm afraid, as children are, they don't look when they run into the street. So I think there's a serious safety issue going on with more traffic and more cars. Sure, there are plenty of duplex homes in Royal Oak. Presumably, they're side by side, hopefully with a fire partition in between to protect both individuals. I don't see how you can protect a 2-family home without some sort of protection between the floors. So that incurs another danger. So I know you've got a lot of reports from the building department, the zoning department, the police department. So I expect you folks to do the right thing, to make the right decision. In fact, to make the only decision to deny this petition. Thank you.
Janice Wegman. I wasn't going to come tonight. I was watching from home, and I heard the comment that how many people are against it, raise your hand. To me, this is a public hearing, not a public raise your hand. It's a matter of public record. It's a YouTube that doesn't shine on the audience. People don't know that there's at least 30 people here that are all against this, and this should be a part of the public record. And if they've taken the time to come out, they should be encouraged to speak and let people know how they feel about changing their single-family neighborhood into what would set a precedent as a multifamily. So if anybody else wants to speak and they feel like they shouldn't because somebody already said it, please come up. If not, people at home, there's at least 30 people here from this neighborhood who do not want this. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention that regardless of whether the landlord's good or bad, I think I'm really concerned about the variance, about his hardship. I mean, I don't see any hardship for him not to notice that something is being rented as a duplex and that there's no fire escape out of the basement. That's pretty basic. I can't imagine you guys have ever approved a variance where there's no fire escape out of the basement. It's a safety issue. I can't imagine you guys would approve that ever. And I don't think it should be allowed to change it in a duplex. And we're kind of worried about precedent. If you approve this one, then you'll say, well, we approved it last time, and this one's like 3 houses away. Let's approve it again. I'm worried about that as well. And that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak tonight about this matter. I've lived in the neighborhood on the other Sylvan Drive since 1985, almost 40 years. I'm sad to be here tonight because it's gotten to this point. This home has mattresses stored against the outside of the garage. You can see it in the photos. We've taken pictures of the trash and the garbage that's kept in the backyard for days on end. If the city of Royal Oak is going to approve this, then my husband and I have always talked about maybe it's time for us to move out. Because once something like this happens, we can see it becoming the norm as opposed to something out of the ordinary. This is a scary situation if you live in the neighborhood.
Safety is priority number one for me. I don't feel safe. Now, when I hear people talking about guns and police reports and human trafficking going on inside the home, it's not good. It's not good for the city of Royal Oak. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I do live on the block. My family, kids at home, my wife, we're always walking around. Love our neighborhood. Nice single-family neighborhood. All the houses look the same. We're all very well taken care of, right? I don't want to get too deep into anything, but just in general, these are small houses. Everyone knows they're smaller size houses. It wasn't something designed for a multi-family house. I think it's just asking for problems in general, especially for parking wise. Like I said, we're walking around the block all the time. 2 families, small house, more cars. So we love our block how it is right now. So just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Before you close it, can I say something? If I might be, before the chair closes the public comment, tonight is the scheduled public hearing, so should the board adopt a motion to postpone the item, there won't be another public notice that's distributed to all the property owners within 300 feet. It'll be up to the liberty of the chair next month or whenever it gets placed on an agenda as to whether the public comment is reopened, but there won't be another public notice that's provided. So we encourage everybody, if the board adopts a motion to postpone, we encourage you to check the agenda online. You can certainly call our office and keep abreast as to when this topic or this agenda item is going to come back on a future agenda. We just wanted to make it clear that this is the public hearing, and so there won't be another public notice.
You can come up here and ask, that's fine.
We were the ones that brought the petition and the signatures by City Hall today for you to have a chance to review in advance of the meeting. I guess my question is, if this is going to be back on the agenda next month, do we have an opportunity to resubmit additional signatures? Okay, thank you.
You had a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Are there public submissions? Are there public submissions that I can review?
Yeah, I think it's part of the agenda, right?
Yes, they're all posted online. We send out public notice and allow the public to provide us anything they wish to pass on to the board prior to 3 p.m. of the day of the meeting. So all of those items that we have received prior to 3 p.m. today, they're all found on the report of findings online.
Okay, thank you very much.
Certainly.
And then also, I'd like to thank you for coming out. I didn't even realize when I asked that thing that there was not notice of the crowds at all. It was one thing that I was trained on as a suggestion when there's so many people, instead of having to spend necessarily everyone's time, to allow the fact to acknowledge that everyone's against it, not trying to suppress any kind of talking, but it was just one of those things of trying to acknowledge it. So I have no problem with everybody who kept on speaking, and thank you for reminding me of that. So anyway, if there's no one else for public hearing to speak on this matter, we'll close public hearing and come back here to the board, which I believe there was a request to postpone this. Is there anyone on the board who would like to make a motion?
I have a question. Procedurally, are we permitted to deny the request when there's not a full board? Because it was presented as though if there's not a full board, it can have it postponed.
Can you repeat your question?
Do we have discretion to not allow a postponement if we don't have a full board? I'm questioning whether we should be making a motion or just postponing it.
Well, we do offer the petitioner the opportunity to request postponement, so we shouldn't offer that as a question to them, present that as an option to them if we're not going to honor it, I would suggest.
That was my question.
All right, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, just so the petitioner knows that it's not unusual that we don't have a full board. I mean, I would say more times than not, there's at least one person missing. I know you usually say that, there's no guarantee that there will be a full board. So, yeah, it could be next month. It could be 3 months, just so that you're aware.
Yeah.
Sure. He usually tells people that, there's no guarantee. So I just, he hadn't mentioned it this time.
Well, as I mentioned when I first started arguing, this has had a highly contentious history. I would just like to point out that in terms of the particular tenants driving crazy or doing whatever, that's still a landlord-tenant issue. And a lot of things that I heard were not on the basis of the law. But given the still highly contentious nature of this, if we could try to do something soon with a full board, I don't know if that's something that you will know in advance.
We won't know until the day of whether or not there's a full board. But more likely than not, there should be more than. But
the board can, if someone wishes to make a motion to postpone it to next month's agenda, it will get placed on next month's agenda. At 7 o'clock, we'll determine the number of board members that are here, and you can continue to make that request, or the board can move forward with their decision.
Right. Well, I certainly think that it's in the best interest of my client to postpone, so I am requesting a postponement, please.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Moore.
I will make a motion to postpone this case to the August meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconds, all right. It is.
You should have done it.
What?
Should have done it.
Right, so it's just. So, any discussion? All right.
So how long are we going to punt this?
Yeah, why can't you?
Why can't you guys just
Excuse me. We're here on this side of the board. This is how it normally goes. We understand you would like it decided on tonight. The petitioner has their option to decide to postpone it. Just like if you were on the other side of the fence and you saw it maybe the other way, maybe you wanted to postpone to get more of your side. So this is how the board operates. Unfortunately, we have to decide here whether or not we're going to postpone it. So we can.
So she's requesting a full board.
We're not guaranteeing. No, she requested a postpone. She requested a postpone to next month to hopefully have more people on the board.
Well, what if you don't again?
Then it's up to them.
Keep postponing it until you do?
Or maybe it never happens. Who knows?
Sorry, sir.
I would suggest that the board has a motion on the table to determine. I suggest that the board take a vote.
Okay. Motion on the table to postpone this to next meeting. Is there any discussion? All right, Sam?
This is just a procedural question. So if we're gonna postpone this, or if we have a motion to postpone it, what does it mean if somebody on the board says no? Then what happens to the transaction?
Well, I guess then.
I'd suggest that the vote occur on the motion, and if there's a less than a majority, then it does not pass.
And what happens then?
Then we would have to have another motion made. But there's a motion on the table. I'd suggest that the board move forward with that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Reddy.
I just wanted to state that the reason we generally grant these is the vote threshold is still the same, whether we have a full board or not. So we're down 2 people tonight. So for a use variance, you have to meet 6 votes, and so it's a tougher standard when there's 2 people missing. That's why we generally postpone these when there's a request.
Any other discussion? All right, move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, this shall be postponed until next month's meeting.
What's he gonna do in a month to encourage you to go? You got a lawyer here, you got the stats and everything.
This is the
board's gonna move on.
The board's moving on. We're going to take a little break, let you guys get out. You can come back next month and speak, possibly.
My friend owned the home for 12 years and it was never a multifamily, so she's lying. Thank you so much for having me.
Come on my porch, you can watch the house if you like.
Well, I guess they're coming back tomorrow.
I'd suggest that we move on to the next case.
Okay. I was going to let them... Sorry, if you want to wait till after the meeting, you can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. You're allowed to come back every month.
You can come to all of our meetings.
If you're discussing, please move out into the hall. We would like to continue on with the meeting.
We said no, we're not.
So if anyone talking, please move into the hall.
Said no, we're not going to postpone it. Then, well, that was my question. I thought we didn't have discretion because we've never told somebody they can't do it.
To be courteous with them,
please make your way to the lobby and close the doors behind you so that we can continue. Please make your way to the lobby.
Courteous to the last petitioner, please make your way to the lobby.
Please make your way to the lobby so the board can continue to conduct its agenda items. Hey, Lou, can you close that door? Oh, okay, it's closing. That's good.
All right, I think, let's see, we'll move on to the next one. Case number 23-07-15. 1927 Brookwood Avenue, whenever you are wanting to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located on the west side of Brookwood Avenue within the one-family residential zoning district. The parcel is currently 80 feet in width, 114 feet in depth, and has a lot area of approximately 9,120 square feet. And the property is currently developed with a single-family dwelling with a front entry attached garage, both of which are proposed to be demolished by the petitioner. And the petitioner is proposing to revert back to the original dimensions of the original platted lots to create 2 new single-family houses, which are referred to as Parcel A and Parcel B, respectively. The 2 parcels are 40 feet in width, 114 feet in depth, and 4,560 square feet in lot area. Now, since this property is located in the one-family residential zoning district, it requires a minimum lot width of 50 feet, a minimum lot depth of 100 feet, and a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet, unless the proposed lots are the same size or larger than at least 50% of the developed interior lots on the block. That's, of course, known as the compatibility provision of the zoning ordinance. However, these 2 proposed lots are only the same size or larger than 44% of the interior lots on the block, so it does not qualify to be divided under the compatibility provision of the zoning ordinance. So with that being said, the petitioner is seeking 2 variances. The first one is to waive 1,440 square feet from the minimum required 6,000 square foot lot area, and then their second variance to waive 10 feet from the minimum required 50-foot lot width for the proposed Parcel A and proposed Parcel B. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Reddy.
I have a question. This one is a little odd, I think, but is the current house used in the calculation? Because it looks like there are 11 on the west side and 13 on the east side. And I was looking at it, all 11 on the west side are 40, all 13 on the east side were 50. So, but when I was first looking at it, I was like, oh, if all of them are 40 on the west side and they're 50 on the east side, then the 40 feet should outnumber the 50-foot ones. But then I think when I did the calculation, it seems like maybe the current house is being counted on with the 50-footers. So I was curious about that.
No, so if you look at staff's lot split calculation, the subject lot was not included. It was listed as not applicable.
Oh, I thought that was submitted by the petitioner. I didn't know that was, okay. All right.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, the petitioner is present. Like to come forward and present your case.
I appreciate everybody's time tonight. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. My attorney and consultant, Dennis Cowan, was unable to make it tonight, so I'm going to do my best to fill in on his behalf, on my behalf. To answer the question that was raised earlier about the 50% compatibility rule, yes, it is correct. The west side of the street where this house is located is all 40-foot lots. On the other side, it's all 50-foot lots. The only difference between the two is there's a house on our side or the west side of the street that faces 12 Mile at the end of the block, where on the east side of the street, they face the Brookwood. And so there's 2 or 3 more houses on the right side of the street versus the left, the east side versus the west side. And so because of that abnormality, that's what caused this case to not be compatible with 50%. I think we're at 44% given the calculation on the write-up from the planning. With that being said, I'll just briefly go into it. There was a lot of conversation, and I don't want to commingle the two, but with the last topic, it is relevant. This property has been a rental property. It's currently vacant, but it's been a rental property before. One of the things that I did is I had a meeting with all the neighbors. The same list that the city provides, I was able to obtain from Alex, send my letter, meet with all the neighbors that wanted to show up. We had good feedback, both positive, negative, and surprisingly on this one, usually there's a passionate plea from 1 or 2 or a few squeaky wheels not to approve a lot split, but in this case, it was all positive feedback for it. The rest of the block, as I mentioned, are all 40-foot lots. So this one being 80-foot and being set way back, you can see it's way at the rear of the property. It doesn't have the same front setback as the rest of the street. So it's the one that stands out or is not normal. Again, like the petition just before me, there's a lot of uniformity with the houses. They're all 40-foot lots, so these houses all look very similar. And so reverting back to the original plotted, the way the city intended it years and years ago, I think is a better approach in order to keep that continuity of 40-foot, 50-foot lots on a block versus this one. This is the only one on this block that stands out that's 80 feet. So as far as the criteria for which this situation was not created by myself or anybody for the lot split. It's just a rare lot on there. At some point, maybe it was 2 individual 40-foot lots, but it definitely is the outlier on the street. And in my meeting with the neighbors, they've all supported it. I have a list here which I can provide. I can pass it around, but directly behind the house, Richard, he approved it. Mark, directly to the south side, he's on the list as well. Both of them showed up for the meeting. Across the street, Michael Larson, 1926 Brookwood. Also across the street, Ashley. all the surrounding neighbors with adjacent or connecting have all supported it. And there's been nobody to my knowledge that was against it. The feedback was, just be careful as far as when you build and, make it safe for our neighborhood and try to build it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But that was the only feedback that I got from the neighbors, so they're all in support of it. The rentals over the years at this particular address, in speaking with the neighbors, they said it's been in foreclosure a few times. Tenants, some good, some bad, but what I would propose here is to split it into 2 lots, build 2 small, reasonable size new construction homes, which will bring owner-occupied tenants and not, or owner-occupied owners and not tenants and another rental. This property needs quite a bit of work inside, and the garage is not even functional to get in and out of the garage, given there's been a little bit of tree root damage that's raised the cement up. So in its current state, it's in pretty rough shape, and it's going to attract that type of tenant if it stays in that current condition. Again, I appreciate everybody's time on this beautiful July evening, and I know you guys put a lot of time and effort into these decisions, so I really appreciate it. And I truly respect all the opinions of the previous homeowners as well as the homeowners that I listen to, and I do solicit a lot of feedback on these to make sure that that's what the neighborhood wants, that's what that particular block would want, and if there's any stuff against it, I try to address their needs, and I've done so. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Moore?
Yes, you made a statement that I think partially answers my question. You said reasonable sized homes on the new lot. Do you anticipate that what you plan to build on these 2 new lots, if approved, would be able to be built without coming back here for further variances?
That's a great question. Yes, no further variances will be needed. A 40-foot lot is pretty standard in Royal Oak. Just as if this is the lot here, usually have 4 foot on the one side. I like to go 5 foot on the one side setback. You build a house that's roughly 25 feet wide. That leaves you 10 feet for a driveway. I think the minimum requirement is 8 feet, so I like to give an extra foot or 2 so you have ample room to get in and out of the car. I would expect on this one, most likely, a detached garage in the back of the property to mirror the rest of the street. And given with the lot size, it's like about 2,000 square feet, give or take, maybe 2,400, but definitely not some of the larger ones that we've seen on 50 or greater size lots. So two reasonably sized house on a 40-foot lot, no additional variances needed.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Robbins.
It's a really premium. Am I on? Sorry. It's a really premium lot there, and especially right by the golf course right there, and the size that it is. Why not just build a bigger, nice, a big house that would be appropriate to that lot?
That's a great question. When my conversation with the neighbors on that particular block is they're all 40. On the other side of the street's 50 foot. This is 80 foot. To put a McMansion on an 80-foot lot is not the desire of the rest of the block. So I don't think it is ideal in that situation. Again, there's some opinion there, but that's also opinion of the whole block that I met with. And the smaller, more reasonable size houses with the front setback as like to the rest of the neighbors, what it needs to be the average of the 2 is much better, because there's a chance that this just remains a rental as is, or like you said, it could be built 3,000 or 4,000 square foot home, which is not compatible with the rest of that block. So the 40-foot lots, in my opinion, are more reasonable for that block, and that's what the neighbor feedback that I've been given.
Mr. Rickman.
You mentioned neighbor feedback, but we don't have it submitted. Do you?
I can submit this now. I did have a meeting with them a week ago, Thursday, and you can pass this around. This can be on the record if it will. Everybody signed that on their own free will. Some of them had also texted me that they didn't show up. So also on that list, it shows the proximity, and again, the two people behind, to the side, and in front have all blessed their support, put their name and number on the application. So this is I've did a few of these over the years, in the course of 2 or 3 over maybe a 10-year span, 15-year span, and this is the most positive feedback I've had, where the neighbors actually want new construction and want to get rid of this house, and they prefer it on a 40-foot lot, not on an 80-foot McMansion type house.
Any other questions?
I just had one more. I passed the sheet off before I noted the number. Could you just state for the record the number of neighbors who signed
I believe there's 9 on the...
Okay.
Yes. But 2 of them are the owners. So
okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, just to let you know, as you know, we only have 7 board members. We may not have everyone next month. We may have everyone next month. So after public hearing, you can decide whether to ask us to postpone it or to go ahead and vote with it on tonight.
For the record, I need 5 of the 7, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, let me listen to the feedback.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. All right, we'll open the public hearing up for this request. Anyone here to speak?
Good evening. My name is Susan Harden, and I am a Royal Oak resident, and I'm here in support of Mr. Doman. I have known Lou for, 15 years, and known him as a friend, but also as someone who is a supporter of the Royal Oak community. I know that he is a trusted builder, a trusted landlord, and I recommend taking his petition tonight, and he is a solid character, and wanted to just share my support for him with you tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak? Going once? Going twice? All right, 3 times. So you can come back up. Like I said, you can let us know whether you want us to postpone till next month or to go ahead tonight.
I don't know what next month will bring, so sometimes, if I have one more comment, a lot of times in these meetings, the squeaky wheel kind of gets the grease. The fact that you don't have that negative feedback or nobody's against it from a public hearing standpoint furthers my point about that block and this particular neighborhood, that there's no overwhelming support against it. But there was quite a few, and a lot of the people signed it for it. So thank you. Yeah, let's... if you can vote tonight, that'd be great.
Okay. All right, we'll bring it to this side of the board. Comments, questions?
Sorry, this is another annoying question for Mr. Poborski.
Sure.
So I was going back, and I realized why my numbers were off. I counted lot 15 as a corner lot, not as an interior lot. Could you explain why it's not a... Because if that were a corner, not an interior, it would take the percentage up to 46. And it would also make it that if the lots were split, it would be a 50-50. But that's the reason why I ask.
Lot 15?
Yes, the one on 12 Mile, on the east side.
This one, 802?
Yeah, just the one all the way on 12 Mile.
Okay. So by definition of the zoning ordinance, a corner lot is a lot which has frontage on 2 separate streets.
Gotcha.
when you examine the compatibility provision for interior lots, you're only examining developed lots that are interior lots. So you wouldn't take into account corner lots in this situation.
Right, but this one is not a corner because it doesn't have frontage on 12 Mile. Is that what you're saying?
1802, that is a corner lot.
Oh, okay.
So we wouldn't include that one in our...
Okay, because it is included on the sheet. So I think it would be 46% if, but not that it matters. It doesn't reach 50 anyway. But just it's a lesser variance that we're looking at.
Any other comments and/or motions? Mr. Reddy.
I move that we grant the variances as requested.
All right, is there a second? Mr. Moore. Go ahead, Mr. Reddy.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just start off by saying, I feel like this is a case where, like we've said, the west side of the street, all of the interior lots are 40, and it does seem like the existing house is the one that's out of character, not what would be in place if there were a split. So, and the variance is quite small. If you don't count the corner lot, it becomes the 46% versus 50. So it's pretty small. And actually, if the lots were split in the future, it would be an even 13-13. So I'll just go through. I think there is a practical difficulty of building two houses on the lot if we don't split it. So I think there is a practical difficulty there. I think the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the property owners in the district, as we saw by the support from the neighbors. The plight of the landlord is due to unique circumstances, yes, and it's not. The hardship hasn't been caused by a person with a present interest. And then we have the further criteria for the land division. For A, the split is more in character with the neighborhood than the current combined lots. And for B, yes, it will allow buildable area. All the lots on the west side of the street are the same. So, all the interior lots, that is. And then C, the extent to which the developed lots in the neighborhood and/or maintain required yards, lot areas. Yeah, it's a nice, the what's there is a nice looking neighborhood. And I think if they can duplicate that, these criteria will be met.
Mr. Moore.
I don't really have too much more to add there. I'll just say that it does sound like granting this will make this more in line with the character of the neighborhood. And I appreciate the commitment from the applicant to build homes that fit in with the surrounding homes. And I think the support of the neighborhood goes a long way in my decision as well.
Any other comments? Once? Okay, well, I'm actually going to be against this, partially because of the hardship. He can use it as a single-family home as it is. He created this himself, wanting to split it versus use it as it is. And although I do understand, you may say, hey, it's getting more with the shape of the neighborhood, one could argue that the nice thing about Royal Oak is the variety of different lots that you have, and the more you split these lots, the less likely you have the larger lots for those people who actually want a larger lot. As Ms. Robinson brought up, that's a premium in that area. Finally, splitting the lot, if people like the large tree on it, it'll probably be gone because that's going to have to be taken out for the new houses. So because it doesn't meet all the non-use variances, maybe two of them, I'm going to be against this variance. Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
One last comment on that. And looking at, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. The alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. I don't believe he technically owns the property yet. From my review of the packet, it looks like it's subject to this decision, so that's, part of my decision is based on that, but it's not his property yet, so.
I also feel like with the tree, I think it's probably going to have to be taken down no matter what, because it looks like it's tearing the gutter off of the house right now because it's so close to it. So I would guess that the tree would come down whether the lot is split or not.
Any other comments? All right, I'll go to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed, nay. Okay, so it carries 5-2. Congratulations, sir. Your variance has passed. All right. Other business. Is there any other business? No? All right, general public comment. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak for public comment, please come forward and speak your words.
Again, this is with regards to postponements. First off, there was kind of an indication that you had to grant a postponement. To my knowledge, you do not have to grant a postponement. You can say no. Before you have a quorum, the board was formed, and you can now the petitioner can withdraw and go through the process again, but you don't have to have a postponement. And secondly, because you're not going to have, in theory, you don't have to grant another public hearing. You certainly, I would suggest on particularly the last one, but it's certainly going forward. You have 7, 9 is normal board. You need 6 for the passage. If you have 4 people, unless you have 4 people for it, why are we having another meeting? Okay? It's not fair to the residents who came to comment, and it's not fair that they can't speak again, and all you're doing is kind of kicking this down and hoping for a random pass, as they say in statistics. So I just want to state categorically, yes, the petitioner can request a postponement. You do not have to grant it. They can withdraw. And again, if you have one of these that looks like it's not going to pass the snowball's chance in hell, then maybe take a straw poll. If there's not 4 for it and you're missing 2, then why are you bothering with this? So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Moore.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Mr. Reddy. Oh, I was going to give it to Ms. Grant, but all right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we are done. Thank you.